our trip to
Terry
Boise.
Jack's Seasons in the Sun is a
Oh,
close third.
Good afternoon. Welcome to the Administrative Committee meeting of the Moscow City Council. It is June 25th, 2018. To my right is Art Bedke. To my left is Ann Zabala. I am Gina Terusio. Very first thing on our agenda today, up to our very far left is Gary Riedner, City Supervisor, representing city staff. Almost missed you.
That doesn't express my political leanings, does it?
We are not expressing political leanings.
Fair enough.
Okay. First item on our agenda is the approval of the Administrative Committee meeting minutes from June 11th.
Look good to me.
Look good to you? Okay, so we approve those.
Thank you.
Sir. Second item is Paradise Creek Floodplain Study Application Fee Approval, Mr. Bill Belknap. Good afternoon, Bill.
Good afternoon.
How are you?
Doing well, thank you.
Good.
As the committee is aware, the city and the Urban Rural Agency have been partnering on a flood study of a portion of Paradise Creek, really between the crossing of South Main 95 and State Highway 8 on the Troy Highway. In that area, it came to light that the current adopted floodplain map is inaccurate due to the fact that there were 3 bridges that existed previously that were removed now about 20 years ago that are still reflected in the floodplain map as it exists today. The agency put the idea forward to look at a study to remap that area to support redevelopment in that portion of the Legacy Crossing District, and partnered with the city to put that work together. At the time that we came before the council, I think now twice, first was a request to assist in phase 2 of that project. The agency independently funded a preliminary assessment of the floodplain in that area that showed some potential positive results. The agency and the city then partnered on phase 2 that include actually doing the field survey and more detailed modeling analysis and preparing application materials to make a request for a letter of map revision where you submit a proposal to revise the flood map to FEMA and they review it and approve it or not. And then the council also contributed, so that phase 2 project was $16,000 and the agency funded $8,000 of that work. And the city contributed $8,000 to that phase. $5,000 of that $8,000 came from community development planning professional services fees that we had budgeted but had no intended use for, and the council contributed then the remaining $3,000 from the non-prioritized legislative projects line item. We then also approached the council for phase 3, which was to prepare the application materials for that letter of map revision. The results of the phase 2 study showed a very significant reduction of the floodplain in that area, and so we need to move forward to make that application. That application and some response to what we expected to be some anticipated requests for additional input from FEMA was a $4,000 project, again $2,000 from the agency and $2,000 that the council committed to funding from the non-prioritized projects line item. Based on our prior conversations with FEMA, we had indicated that these bridges were removed in 1998 and the most current floodplain map was published in 2002. And so we were hopeful to have the application considered as one based on more accurate data or information. So there are different categories of letter of map revision requests, and depending upon the basis of it, some have fees and some do not. And so we were led to believe, because this appeared to be a mapping error on FEMA's part as part of the 2002 study, that there would be no application fee that would be required as part of the letter of map revision request. It turns out, though, after we submitted it and they reviewed it and looked in their archives, the actual hydraulic analysis that supports the 2002 map was completed in 1997, the year before the bridges were removed. And the state Transportation Department, which was the entity that did the bridge removal, didn't pursue a letter of map revision at that time. So therefore, this has not been classified as a request based on more accurate information, but based on a bridge or structural modification to the channel itself. That then requires a accompanying fee of $8,000. And so we are before you this afternoon to seek your recommendation of approval of funding that application fee. Again, I think in discussions with Gary, it appeared that there was capacity left in the non-prioritized projects line item and that the council could choose to utilize that to support the application. With that, I'd be happy to try to answer any questions you may have.
As Bill indicated, the previous assistance with the Urban Renewal Agency We've utilized $5,000 out of community development planning professional services budget, as well as some amount of money from legislative reserve or non-prioritized projects. We now have $15,000 from a starting FY18 budget of $20,000. So there is capacity in order to do this. Again, it seems like a project that's worthy. We need to move ahead.
Agreed.
It seems like we have capacity to do that if the council wants to authorize that. Now, I will say that this needs to move ahead fairly quickly, is my understanding. We will not have another council meeting until the 16th of July. So what we'd like is the authority, and we'll certainly pull the rest of the council, in order to move forward and ask for a ratification of that action at the July 16th meeting.
Yeah, I think it doesn't change a single fact before us. Reduction in the size of that floodplain is necessary for some projects to proceed, and holding them up is not wise. They're going to charge the fee regardless. We need to step up and do it, hit the ball into their court, and keep it out of ours, keep the process moving, get to a conclusion. And since there's funds available in various of the accounts, I think we should step forward and do it.
I agree.
It was a good try to see if it would be fee-free. But no, I totally agree with everything that's been said, and I would say we recommend authorization of this $8,000 expenditure from the legislative non-prioritized projects line item. How's that?
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Bill. Okay, third item on our list is small office commercial sanitary sewer rate pilot program. It says Mr. Reedner is going to tell us the story.
Thank you. And the real experts are out in the audience, but I will begin with this. We have, over the past couple of years, had some commercial businesses, small offices typically, that do irrigation in the summer. As you know, and as you know from the fee resolution, our sewer rate studies, and various other documents, that our commercial sewer rate is determined by a base rate that every business pays, depending on the loading that their particular business gives. For instance, as I mentioned in the CCSR, if you're a restaurant, because you have fat, oils, and grease as part of the food processing, your sewer rate is a higher rate than, say, a business that does not have that. So there are different classes of sewer rates. You're charged a base rate or a base fee every month for access to the sewer system. Then you're charged increased amounts based on the amount of water you use, assuming that as you use more water, you put more wastewater into the system. So it's rated on 100 cubic foot increments. The confusion comes in when you have water usage that does not go into the sanitary sewer system, so hence irrigation. So we looked at, if you've got a business that their actual flow that goes into the sanitary sewer system does not vary at all, within limits over the 12-month period, except for the use of irrigation, their water use goes up. Then they're being charged for use of the sanitary sewer system, that in fact they are putting no tax on that system. Similar to residences, where you have a water rate and your water rate fluctuates and you pay more based on the volume of water that you use along with a base rate. You're not charged extra for sewer. So no matter how much water you use, if you're a resident, you pay the same sewer rate every month. So we asked the folks in the utility billing department, engineering, water and sewer departments to take a look at what circumstances lend themselves more to a residential type application than a straight commercial application. And they've come up with a list of, and in fact, if you guys could come up and sit up here, that would be great. Got Mike Parker from the water department.
Hello.
Meredith Whiteman from water, and we have Cassie Macy, who is our utility billing clerk.
Hi.
So these three, along with Les McDonald, the public works director, went through the individual accounts in order to determine which businesses fell more into the residential use category because their main spike in water use was irrigation. And they've identified about 49 accounts, if my counting is correct. Typically, small office businesses that have lawns. Now, let them Mike kind of take the lead on this. But as their irrigation goes up, they will still be billed for water usage. So as they use more water, they will be billed for that volume rate, but it will not affect the sewer rate. Now, what we've done is we talked about what would be a fair sewer rate to charge these folks. And they get charged right now the base rate, base commercial rate. And then we had to go in and look at 49 accounts that appeared that they fell into that category and determine whether they were using less than 100 cubic feet a month or 100 cubic feet or even above that. And it appeared, if we err on the conservative side, that 200 cubic feet use, which amounts to around $7 a month, appears to be a good compromise. So what we would like to do is we would like to, as a pilot program, develop a separate rate class for those 49 accounts. That will give some relief this year that actually reflects the customer's use of the sanitary sewer system, while these folks continue to analyze sewer usage compared to the water usage. And if there is a better way to do it, then we can develop that and bring that forward over the next year prior to the next irrigation season. So with that, do you folks have anything you'd like to add to that?
No, it was finding all the outliers to figure out which was the best candidates for this was a challenge, but I think that we thoroughly, between all three of us, worked really hard to go through this list several times and make sure that if this gets approved, that these people do qualify for that within that tier range.
Les, do you have any comments you'd like to make? Okay.
It's a creative solution or creative problem-solving moment here. I'm kind of impressed with it. I think it's a fun idea, and let's see what happens. I like experiments.
Just for Imagineering, can you name anybody who falls into the category?
Well, this all kind of started with a couple, Art. Larry Lucas comes to my mind. His bill was getting a little high, and he questioned it. So we all decided to investigate it. We put a meter in as a new meter that we could data log and get his usage to figure out how he uses his water to analyze this. Through that, we learned that there is a lot of water that he's paying he's paying through irrigation, but it's actually, it's going on irrigation and not into the sewers. And so I think there was a couple more. JUB was another case that we looked into. The Sanitary, there's several others that, just fell into this as we started looking at it more and more, that, we could see that they really put the water onto their lawns. And in speaking with them, they really want a nice place of business. They want it aesthetically pleasing. We tried the conservative aspect to maybe have them go to water conservation and do, some Yscape, thank you. It was skipping me. Again, the pain meds. I'm not going to dance, though. But we tried conservation as part of this approach as well. Several individuals stated that they really like the lawn. They like that atmosphere for their customers to come. So, and by all means, if that's what they want and they're willing to pay for the water, then that's what, they should have. But.
So do we have any preliminary idea of what the impact might be to the sewer fund as an aggregate of 49?
If I can address that, we didn't do an actual dollar for dollar, but it appeared that there were, I believe, about 8 to 10 businesses that had somewhere between 400 to 600 cubic feet per month. There were several businesses that were at 100 cubic feet, and then several in between. So I don't think the amounts, as I indicated, it's about $3.50 per 100 cubic feet. So the impacts are not going to be great. We have about, I believe, 5,600 ratepayers out there. Mm-hmm. So you're talking about a very small class.
Yeah.
So, well,
I just really like the responsive nature of this. I really do, and I'm in favor of it.
no,
Definitely.
I'm in favor too. I think we should continue with the experiment and see where we wind up, because essentially they're paying for a service they're not receiving, and fair is fair,
Yeah,
so.
awesome. Now, will this come before the whole council?
We'll bring it before the council with the report.
Okay, good. That's what I
When
want.
we develop a new rate class, of course, it is, overall, it will be, I believe the impact will be less than the full amount if you were to bill it all out separately. So it appears that the fee rate will not violate the fee resolution as it sits now. We'll continue to do that work. But what we're trying to do, again, it's taken a long time to develop this information. We wanted to make sure that we're able to implement it in time for this irrigation season. If necessary, we can make some adjustments, as have been done in the past, before we get approval through council. But we can make that work.
We're in. We like this idea. Good job. Thanks for being as responsive. That's
Thank you.
really
Okay.
awesome.
Thank you all for your work.
Yeah, really.
Nice.
Okay, that is our last item on our regular agenda. We have a couple updates from the Kathleen Burns. First one is a Poet Laureate update.
I'll let the assistant city supervisor who supervises these divisions to sit in, if you don't
There's
mind.
an awful lot of supervision going on here. Okay. Hi, Jen. Thanks, Gary.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you.
So I'd like to just give a little brief history of the Poet Laureate program. This was a MAC initiative, the Moscow Arts Commission. We are the second city in the state of Idaho for a Poet Laureate. Our first Poet Laureate was Tiffany Midge, and then we just did our official call for a new Poet Laureate. And the MAC met to go over the selections and the submissions, and there was 4 local poets that submitted. The MAC members that went through the process to select our current Poet Laureate was Christine Gilmore, David Wilson, Matt Harden, and Lauren McCleary, all from the MAC, and Lauren being the chair of the Moscow Arts Commission. So with that, Susan Hodgen was selected, and she just signed a 3-year contract. And some of the action items that are involved with the Poet Laureate is she'll meet with a representative of the MAC and the city and put together a calendar of events on where we want to feature our Poet Laureate. And the first coming up is the Mayor's Arts Awards in October. And then it just keeps going. She already jumped the gun and presented for Art Walk at the ribbon cutting at the library. So the great thing about Susan is she's been teaching in the Moscow School District for 30-something years.
Wow.
And teaching poetry, and she has a lot of connections in the school district. So with any, no more waiting, I'd like to introduce Susan. She's going to come to the podium and read.
Good, we get a sample.
Can I slide this in?
Give a sample.
I think I can do it. I wrote a formal statement, so here I'll begin. Mr. Mayor, members of City Council, Director of the Arts Commission and its members, thank you for this honor to serve as Moscow's second Poet Laureate. As a retired language arts educator, I have seen students who often mistakenly associate literature, poetry included, more with school than with life. I promise no analytical papers or quizzes. Instead, I hope to promote Moscow's arts, building a cultivated community by using poems and inviting local poets to explore values, recall and speak narratives, and spill emotions that reveal our humanity, a connected and caring community, Moscow, Idaho, heart of the arts. Serving in this official capacity, I had the pleasure of meeting some of you at the ribbon cutting during Art Walk at our Moscow City Library, honoring the work of that Spokane artist, Melissa Cole, who brought to its grounds, which also featured the ceramic work of local youngsters and seniors whose contributions to this project will bless generations to come. At that gathering, I read my first commissioned poem entitled Book Chauffeur Visit. My recent research on this subject enlightened me. I learned that our nation's history of bookmobiles was inspired by a librarian from Washington County, Maryland, named Mary Titcomb, whose vision was to bring books to rural communities. The vessel for this undertaking was a horse-drawn library wagon transporting boxes of books to nearby general stores and post offices. Then in 1912, 2 years before my father's birth, the first motorized bookmobiles were born, taking books to rural areas, taking books to local schools, taking books to senior centers. With the Great Depression and 2 world wars, services were reduced, but after the war, bookmobile production returned with the passage of the Library Services Act of 1956. Here is where my poem and its brief southeastern Louisiana history collide, expanding outreach services to over 30 million people in small and rural communities like my sister and me. Ladies and gentlemen, Book Chauffeur Visit. The branch library bookmobile kicked up yard driveway dust and gravel under its gray wheels. Mid-morning, June's sun matched our lifted spirit. Tumbling out of the clapboard house like school-dismissed children, we slammed the blackened screen door, raced across gray-painted porch, cement walkway through mowed grass. The book chauffeur smiled us into the rusty red and cream bus. I stood tall, a walking doll inside this dollhouse shelved with library stacks, volumes, their closed paper smell strong. We fingertip-touched books, held our heads sideways, reading spines by sun-rayed light. My sister found green poodles, the green book she would read 5 times. I found my blue books, Jefferson and Adams biographies, learned how their minds stood at enmity almost a lifetime until age slowed their hot blood with parchment and quill. When Adams knew he was dying, he whispered, "Thomas Jefferson still survives." They died hours apart, resting in the knowledge that the other lived. Some book lessons are never teacher taught. What stories, what truths summer readers take with them, moving memories from moving libraries. To set the record straight, Adams in Massachusetts did not die before Jefferson in Virginia. Jefferson actually preceded Adams in death by 5 hours, both dying on the 50th anniversary of the birth of a nation, July 4th, 1826. Then in 1831, James Monroe, some regard as the last of the founding fathers, also died on the 4th of July. Yes, libraries rock. Thank you.
I remember bookmobiles.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, that was awesome. So. Sweet. Okay.
So if you missed it, Susan read that poem at the library on June 15th, so it's pretty exciting. And she signed her contract on the 18th. So we're very blessed with our new poet laureate. And she's already grabbed April in the gallery because that's National Poetry Month. So we'll have an exhibit in the gallery and go from there. So this is not a data and statistics presentation. We haven't had time. We have meetings coming up to kind of go through different components of Art Walk, and we have a lot of folks that serve on the subcommittee, the planning committee for Art Walk, and we'll kind of go through what to do for 2019. I wanted to give some background if you haven't visited the tile mural that's up at the courthouse. Jen Piffner's kids were featured in the newspaper because they actually were there for the ribbon cutting and the unveiling. And that's our Steve Hilken on the right, who's installing the Canton stars. And he does all of our vinyl graphics in the gallery. So there was a lot of volunteers to put this together, the tile mural. So now the staff at the courthouse have made a permanent installation on the wall and built a frame, and this piece was installed. So pretty neat. There's Susan up on the top left reading at the dedication for our Mosaic Installation by Melissa Cole. And that was really great. The mayor had oversized scissors and cut a ribbon, and it was pretty exciting. And Melissa got to speak about how she's had a lot of different projects, but spending her week in Moscow, she was willing to up and reroute and move to Moscow, and this has become her favorite project. And the good news is King County Library System is now looking for her out of Seattle, so that's pretty exciting for an artist. We hope to have Melissa speak at our upcoming NowPAC conference that we're having in Moscow, which is the Northwest Public Art Administrators Conference. That's an odd acronym, but on community engagement, public art, and the value. So people are still finding their clouds, their leaves, their flowers, and and having their photos taken. So it's been very interactive. Then our chalk artist, Chris, came to town from Colorado, and he actually met with the mayor as well and is considering moving here from Denver, Colorado, because the Moscow-Pullman Airport can get him to Seattle back and forth unlimited. And he has become a professional artist, so he was able to quit his day job to become a professional temporary performance public artist. So it's pretty exciting for him. And then he did, he says, I'm here for the cake, but he did add the Moscow Bear logo because he didn't even know that the high school team were the Bears. So it was pretty exciting. And again, he started on Thursday morning and finished on late Friday afternoon. And there's a little darkness on the sidewalk, but it's pretty much gone now. So then we decided to have Shaky, our intern, upstairs. He helped with a mosaic workshops at the 1912 for Melissa. And he's been working on a project on public art, and we thought, well, let's just do Public Art 101. So we got some really cool aerosol chalk spray, and then kids were able to do their own crosswalk.
Not just kids.
Well, there is a lot of ages involved in that project. And, you know, a lot of it is still there. You can see it. Yeah. And so that was really a very fun experiment. And it was great because we were actually going to put less polka dots, and there was a public works guy watching it unfold, and he said, no, just double that effort. So I was like, you don't think that's too much? He goes, no, let's go. So it was really fun to have somebody encourage us. So these are photos from the Public Works Gallery on Main, and there's a lot of different interactive stories there, kids trying out different equipment, learning a lot of different things about our water distribution, and just different projects. And you see the sign behind the thrift store? I just stopped in there today and asked her how Art Walk was for her. And she said, well, people found us.
Nice.
And she says as a business, it was really great because a lot of people know about the thrift store, but now a lot of people know about the thrift store. And they're tied to the Lewiston thrift store, and so it's really been a great adventure for them on Main. And then we had the paint the plows, and the kids just loved it. And there was a great follow-up article in the Inland 360 on the value of art. Jennifer Bauer was up, Beautiful Downtown Lewiston was up, Kelsey Kramer from LCSC Arts and History, and they were all like, how do we do this in Lewiston? And so she wanted to interview on all the different facets of Art Walk and what makes it so great. And the people are what make it great, and who's involved, and different folks. So our passport was tallied. I don't know if you participated, but this year's People's Choice winner was Hannah Greaser in Bootsers. And her photography is still up in Bootsers. A lot of your exhibits are still up. This is just a reminder. Not all exhibits were just one night only. Some of them go almost into the middle part of August. Our exhibit here comes down the first week of August. So I just wanted to emphasize there's a lot of different locations out there, and we've had a lot of foot traffic through City Hall that people are still looking at art. So I just wanted to remind everybody that it's a great time to go get a cup of coffee or check out the surroundings, but it's been really fun. And with that, we'll have our closing reception here on August 2nd with Erica Wagner. She'll do her speaking on how she creates her art. And we've had a lot of questions about painted kale, and was that just digitally done, or was she actually painting the fruit? And I said, yep, she painted it. So she'll give her artist talk from 5:30 to 6, and then we'll take this exhibit down and open up 1st of September for our collections with Dulcie and Latah County Historical on what we collect and why. A lot of different. So that's it. And we'll have some follow-up meetings with the subcommittees and kind of put thoughts together and look for 2019. Yeah.
Great work.
It was a hoot.
It was fun.
So good.
Yeah, it was. I'd like to say the beer garden on Friendship Square was standing room only for about 3 hours. So, and it was pretty amazing. But the bands were great, and it was a lot of fun. Yep.
Awesome.
So,
And if I
Yes.
might, with Kathleen retiring this fall,
Yep.
she's brought Art Walk a long way in her time with us. And it's a tremendous event with, I think we had over 5,000 people, at least, maybe 6,000 attending this year. More artists, more businesses participating. She's done a tremendous amount of work to bring it to where it's at. And so, we just got to continue to do what she's done, which is going to be the secret sauce we've got to figure out. But
Yeah.
There's a lot of
appreciate the work
files on
she's
the
put in.
computer.
Absolutely. We might call you. I'm just going to put that out there. So
Where
just
you
wanted
live,
to
girl.
acknowledge what she's contributed to the event
Oh,
over the years to get us to
absolutely.
where we are today. It's pretty
it's
amazing.
really fun.
Yeah.
I love the polka dots, though.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. When I told Mr. Reedner that I was going to buy graffiti spray paint from LA from a dealer, he was like,
yeah.
what? But it is chalk, and it's going away, but that was really super fun.
Dare say that's not the first time you've received that kind of reaction
Yeah,
from Mr.
yeah.
Reedner over the years.
I've had that through the years, yeah.
I think it is definitely a huge community asset, and a lot of it is due to you and your efforts and your inability to take no for an answer, which I appreciate.
Thank you.
So, yeah. Any questions, any other? Okay, well, that is our last item. Shall we go ahead and adjourn?
Away we go.
Okay. Kathleen, thank you.
You're
once
welcome.
again.